All right, guys, we are live. This is the Digital Climax Kings, episode 13. I am joined today by Digital Prophets, and I'm the Dead On Leprechaun. So I'm up here in the beautiful Minnesota on a snow day. We just got snow that canceled school, so that was pretty interesting. And meanwhile, Prophets is enjoying sunny Texas, and I'm pretty jealous right now. I'm not going to lie.
Well, I'm gonna be frank with you, Lep. It wasn't that way this morning. That wind was howling and we were getting hammered with rain all morning, but by 10 a.m., God's great sun shined upon us and we were able to work in the heat. You know what it's like when you grab metal, Lep, in the Texas heat without gloves on? You learn to have gloves on at all times.
Oh, yeah,
Hey, I
yeah.
really wanted to share something. I'm staying with a friend and his mom right now, and his mom likes to, she just plays games on the computer like a lot of people do. And it reminded me of the Brave browser, which has a Brave reward program where you get paid to, view ads, but there's also a lot of privacy built into it. And it's really hard for me to explain and articulate that. That's why we already talked about this and we have a video queued up we want to show real quick and then get into the meat and potatoes of how this could affect your life right now.
Right on. Let's load it up here. Well, that is pretty cool.
All right. Any takeaways from that, Lep? I know that was your first time hearing about Brave Rewards.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think that there's certainly a market, for people that are just trying to make passive income like that. And if you're gonna have ads thrown in your face anyway, I don't know why you wouldn't at least check it out. And I guess I don't understand how it works on the back end, like how much data you send them, but if that all checks out and is legit, I think it's the real deal. If you want to just make some free money, if you're watching YouTube ads, you might as well watch Brave ads and get paid.
Hey, I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen? You don't get paid?
Yeah, and I don't think that would happen. I think the worst that
No,
happens, you
it's all
see.
self-account. I mean, it's using blockchain technology, which is, in layman's terms, just an open public ledger. There's no, everybody's eyes can see what's happening if you know what to look for. So, Lep, that's my take on something that could be, like I said, I just watched that video with my friend's mother, and now she's watching some Gary V YouTubes on what NFTs are and all kinds of stuff. I don't even know. I left because we went live and just walked in there briefly, and she's already on like a different video. So it's interesting how these guys are really able to articulate and explain these things, which I've had such a hard time ever since the day I became obsessed with Bitcoin. Everybody's thought I was just bat crazy. And now it's
Yeah,
all making
no,
sense, Lep. So that's all I got
well,
for today.
nobody thinks you're crazy with Bitcoin anymore because obviously it's shot up like a rocket in the past couple of years. So I think that there's certainly always
Okay.
going to be deniers, but by and large, it's a proven thing now.
Well, Lep, if you paid attention to the video and the dates, he shot that in 2020. I did some quick calculations, and he was making about 11 to 12K that month in
Wow.
BAT. That's pretty intense,
Yeah, that's insane.
right?
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know
So,
anybody
what you
that
got
wouldn't
going for
benefit.
today? Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I
Yeah,
just said
right.
I
I
don't know
mean,
anybody.
that's another reason people think I'm crazy.
Yeah, no, I just think it's like I said, it's worth checking out. I mean, obviously I'll have to play around with it and figure out how it all works, but if you get paid and it works, then I guess I don't know what the downside would be.
I suggest we put it to the test. So I will continue to report about this and see how my friend's mother does with her new adventure.
Yeah, that'd be super
We could
cool. And
call it
then
an
maybe,
adventure in Web3.
yeah, and if she's down, maybe we could even show like what she's made since installing it. So if she's like installed it recently, and then we could check in with her after a month and just see what she's been paid, and that way people can see, proofs in the pudding kind of thing.
That's a very good idea, sir. I do concur.
Yeah. Well, should we talk about some news and potential updates?
I've been in the shop all day just listening to music and have purposely like started to just ignore what's going on. But I mean, it is relevant. So if you got anything worth mentioning left, hit us up.
Well, the things that I kind of wanted to mention were um, probably start with the global news, which is the Chinese lockdowns that we touched on last week on the channel. We talked about how there were areas that were being locked down in China because of COVID, and now we're at the point where the Chinese lockdowns are aggravating shipping, and it's basically creating a crisis as the freight rates are spiking, and then triggering panic. So I think people, like we try to hit over our head, your head every time in a podcast, that you really can't have too much prepared for what's coming. That the price increases that we've seen to date, I think, are just the tip of the iceberg. I think that we're in for a world of hurt, especially if China, they're pretty much our biggest sugar daddy, for lack of a better word, when it comes to getting us cheap Chinese things that we're all so used to having in our homes. I mean, I think there was, a bunch of studies done that showed, something like 80% of what's in your house has Chinese parts in it. So
Lep,
I
can I
think,
play off of that real quick?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's interesting you said that because today what we're doing is fabricating shipping containers into different, like a fireworks stand. But the one we were working on today, it's just a little one. And when we were putting in a window, the corrugated steel, it was kind of bowed out, right? So my buddy Joe, who's like a ninja with fabrication, disappears for a minute, and he comes back with this thing he welded together. I was like, what's he doing with that? And it was just like a simple like hook system, and then he ratcheted it and pulled the metal in. But like that's something I wouldn't have thought about because I'm not quite there yet as far as a fabricator, but that's what I'm learning to do with these guys. They make stuff that we have relied upon other people, such as you were saying, China, to make for us, right?
Right? That is totally true. You know that there's like Aiden said on previous podcasts, and I totally agree with, is there really isn't um uh there isn't a skill that you can have, especially when it comes to working with materials, and the more raw the materials, the more that you have to do, as far as skills. I think that you really can't have too many. So this would be the time to get yourself some books, watch some YouTube videos, and just learn how to, learn a new skill every day. I mean, we don't know how long we have before things become out of hand in either our region, our area, whatever. Maybe it doesn't come to us at all. I mean, I certainly pray it doesn't, but you'll never be upset that you learn new skills. And now that you have something that you can fall back on, or potential, career path, like the situation that you're in.
Lep, I have an idea or a suggestion. Why don't we, once I get my office set up maybe like a knowledge repository based on what you just said? Like where we could, put like how-to videos, how to purify water, how to grow a garden, stuff like that in layman's terms. So it's not like you have to read a 300-page book from Barnes and Noble that you pay $36 for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that's a
Okay.
great idea. Create more resources for people to have, like almost like an encyclopedia of skills.
Oh my God, when I was a kid, my mom had like, the whole set on the bookshelf, and I just like that was like crack to me. The encyclopedias, Britannicas, right? And how
Oh,
true
I
that
love
stuff
them.
was,
I
I don't
love
know,
them.
but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I'm sure that there was a lot of it was propaganda, but it doesn't
Yeah.
matter because when you're young, you're so thirsty. Your brain is just a
You know
sponge.
what, Lep? Another thing, my dad always had National Geographics. Like, I don't know why dude had like as many as he did, but as a kid, I read them. And that actually, now that I think about it, helped me like understand world culture more so from like a Nat Geo perspective opposed to like a political bent, if that
For
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed those too. Like, I just think that there's something invaluable about learning. If nothing else, you see how good we have it in the United States. That's a huge plus to just realizing that you can't squander the gifts that we've been given, for being born in the greatest country on earth. I mean, it may not be perfect, but it sure is the best one yet. The line to leave is
Amen
pretty
to
short.
that.
Pretty short. So touching back on some of those stories, unless you had something else to add,
No, I'm done
but I was
until
just
you say
gonna,
something else.
yeah, no, that's totally fine. But no, going back to what we were talking about, as far as the Chinese shipping container crisis, like I think that that'll really start to show its head about the beginning to middle of summer. So, I just can't emphasize enough that I think that people would be well served to stock up on whatever they can afford. It doesn't mean putting yourself in the poorhouse to do it, but if you can buy yourself a few extra, cans of food, if you can buy yourself some extra water, I don't think any of it, could be a bad thing at this point. As long as you can afford it, I think it's worth doing.
87 days left. I have an ongoing joke with a good buddy of mine. Shout out to the sneaker savant. I told him that in 90 days something was going to happen, and I forgot what I told him because I was drunk. But now he remembers, and he holds me accountable to all my dumb shit all the time. That's why I love him to death. So in 87 days,
Good
something
though.
I think is like a food shortage. That's what it was. I told him in 90 days, the world's going to run out of food. You don't know what's coming. I was emotional about it.
It's not. I
Anywho,
mean, we joke about it in the United States, but it's true. I mean, the
Hmm.
something is coming. What that's going to look like, that's sure up for debate. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be the Nostradamus of our time, but I can definitely see when there's a perfect storm of issues, that have kind of reared their head. We just came out of COVID, and then we went into the Ukraine Russia thing, and prior to that, the lockdowns, everything that we've been through in the last 3 years is just, it's quite a lot. People are kind of done. They want to just go back to living and enjoying their lives, but unfortunately, I don't think the world's going to let us do that yet. I think we have one more stage of something pretty terrible before things are going to go back to getting better and improving again. But it all depends on what our politicians and what the people that the rich oligarchs, the people with money and power decide to do. They can either make things better or make things worse. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the upcoming days. A couple other things that are kind of on my mind. I wanted to switch gears. There's a lot of stories out there about the potential that this Ukraine thing is coming back to an end now. That if Ukraine's willing to give up the Donbass region and I can't think of the other area right now. It's slipping my mind. Crimea. That if we're able to escape this without a world war, that would be great. But I do think that there's still potential. With this growing season that's been kind of tossed out the window as far as anything that's going to look close to normal. The fertilizer. Some of the things are just done for good. Like we're not going to get Russian oil back anytime soon. We're not going to get Russian fertilizers, nickel, you name it. It's all pretty much off the table. And so if we don't start to produce things here and to really, start thinking outside the box, we're going to be in a world of hurt if we don't start doing that. But I saw another story to switch gears and talk about the fact that I saw a headline that Rogan is threatening to quit if censorship restricts his show and basically, turns it into a milk toast, pseudo whatever Spotify decides is okay. So I don't know if he's done a show saying that or if he's just made statements, but I want to check the details on that and get back to folks tomorrow and let you know what the status of that is, because Rogan quitting is a pretty big deal. I mean, just us talking on this podcast right now, we're a derivative of the Rogan era and how it basically changed the world. For a long time, people couldn't get a message like this out to thousands of other people, and like the world is forever changed because of it. But if we lose our kind of number one guy and people start to go back to that mainstream news, and then podcasting starts to phase back out, that would be a bad thing. That's a very much a net negative in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about that, but I think Rogan has what we call in the trades brand equity, and Spotify is just, I think they're more of an obstacle than like the money doesn't matter to Rogan. Come on. You like, if anybody has listened to his show, yeah, I mean, it was a huge influence why he moved to it. But now I think like because of all this, constant censorship, it's just not worth it because that's defies the whole purpose of the Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah,
Uncensored, baby.
I couldn't agree more. But unfortunately, the as we've seen, as much as I hate to talk about the slap story, I just want to mention it quickly in that in that it's one of those things that really clearly shows that there's a double standard. Like if you or me did something like that at a work party, like let's say you're at a Christmas party, because that's essentially what it was. It was like a work Christmas party for all these rich, elites patting themselves on the back and giving themselves awards. And then they go and do something so ridiculous. Rumor on the street is that the Academy is talking about disciplinary measures against Will Smith. So that makes me think that it is probably at least real in that it wasn't scripted with them. They certainly could have scripted it with each other, but I don't think that it was indeed something that they knew was coming, if that makes sense. So if that's the case, I mean, Rogan is not really part of that group. Like you said, he's from the MMA world, and he is a little bit alternative in his thinking and the way he does things. So
He's
if he,
actually he's his bread and butter. What got him to where he is he's just a comedian, a stand-up comic, which used to be able to operate under, like you as a comedian. Remember Carlin and Pryor and all those guys? They got away with murder on the stage. Now forget about it.
But that's my point. That's
Okay, I
the
got
only
you. I got
reason.
you. I got
The
you.
only reason that you would be in this business is to make people laugh. Because what makes people
Mm,
laugh is saying something that is a little bit uncomfortable, that makes people think, and it makes people have, like a subconscious reaction. That's what laughter is. So the way that Will Smith was laughing along with everyone else, and then saw his wife's, the look on her face, that the death scowl that she gave him, and then he gets that, changes gears and goes and humiliates himself, his family, his fans, and, in front of millions of people. The Academy Awards isn't what it used to be, but it's still something. And to do that is insane. And so I've got to be thinking that Rogan's looking at that event going, if Chris Rock is not big enough to not be canceled for one bad joke, then, where is his place in the world?
Look, I saw a headline saying, it had a whole mess of that incident, and in the slurry of it, one said, "Is this the end of actors?" Like that got my attention. And I think this
Ooh.
might be the iceberg, and like Will Smith hitting Chris Rock. Chris Rock was or Will Smith was the Titanic. Will Smith or Chris Rock's the iceberg, and boom, show's over, baby. Because now we all are famous. We can all be famous. We don't need to, like succumb to the same Spider-Man every year or another Batman, or now we can do crazy creative stuff globally. That's my take on it, at least.
And I agree. I mean, I think that 100% of people would agree with that position. Well, not 100%, but 90% of people would agree with that position. But I think Rogan's the canary in the coal mine. I think that
Oh, yes, yes. Okay.
if he goes down, I think that we all have the potential to go down.
That's what's so great about this Web3 infrastructure we've been building, Lep, and we'll build more on that in the future. I know we're getting close to the end. My back's hurting. Definitely need
That's
to
that
roll one
manual
after
labor.
this. I love it. Dude. Okay, so my buddy watches NASCAR from time to time, and we were watching it the other day, and I was watching the pit crew, specifically the pit crew. So I'm trying to be like that dude in the shop, like Johnny on the spot. Ladder's in the way, boom, it's out of the way. And I've already mastered, but I've already learned how to use the plasma cutter. Never used one before. Kind of learned well, but not good enough yet. And I'm the cutter, and I'm the best cutter there is, because if you're better than me, I'm gonna try and become better than you. And cutting's pretty easy once you get it down. So yeah, it was like being in a pit crew. My heart was racing. It was like fun, like adrenaline, baby. You got your gloves on because you cut and steel. You just like it's like the sacred trade. I've been trying to learn from my uncle in Northern California for years, but he's so mean. I can only handle him in small portions.
Right, right. Yeah, everybody knows somebody like that. And that, unfortunately, that's the only downside to working with your hands, is that those roughnecks, man, they're rough. I mean, they
Oh
definitely,
boy.
this
Oh
ain't
boy.
this ain't no Real Housewives. These people get stuff done, and if you get in their way, you're getting moved.
Oh, you touch their cable, bro. You're getting barked at.
Touch their toolbox, you touch anything that they don't want you touching, you're in a
Oh
world of
yeah.
hurt.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, it
But
looks like we're done.
we're hitting our 30 minutes. Thanks again. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow, same time, same place.
Texas out.
Minnesota out. I wish I was in Texas.